Hello, 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 hello. Welcome back to this brand new episode of Hear Their Voices. This is an Icon podcast. And for those of you joining us for the very first time, Icon is the International Committee on Nigeria, and we promote human dignity, the right to live, religious freedom, and the protection of the vulnerable against all forms of persecution in Nigeria. And I'm excited because some of you who've been following us know that I've been filming this from Puerto Rico the past month almost. And it's a joy to be back in my studio, to not have much connection issues. And I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to introduce you to our guests. We have a few announcements, our news items, just like usual. But first, y'all know I do this every week. We're not going to skip it this week. Pull up your phone. It is not good, says me, for you to be watching this podcast by yourself. So whether you're watching it live or you're watching with friends, or you're watching 10 days later, okay? As you're watching this, pick up your phone and go to your app. Those of you who are following us, you would have received a notification that says, Icon has just gone live, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to turn my sound down so you don't hear me twice. And you click on that link and just click share. It's as easy as that. For me, I try to share it to my Instagram, WhatsApp status, because that's where a lot of people watch. I send it to my family. I send it to close friends, and I just click send. That way I am not watching it by myself. You can go on Facebook and click share, and that's all. It's that simple, because this stories, the voices that we're highlighting, are of absolute importance, and it's not good for you to be watching it by yourself. So thank you again for joining us. For those of you who have watched this every week and you've commented and you've supported us, thank you, thank you, thank you. Your voice is absolutely important to us. We want to say, get engaged, send us messages. We want to hear from you. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram and all the things that we beg you to follow us on. Go to iconhelp.org to get more information. We are absolutely excited to be here with you today. Last week, we had a special guest who was our director for the Diaspora, and we discussed about the importance of the voices of people in the diaspora in this fight against terrorism and religious persecution in Nigeria. This week, I'm excited to bring someone who is a good friend of mine. I call this person a faithful friend. He is a person of the diaspora. He's also an American citizen, so can speak to his engagement with this particular topic, not just as a Nigerian, but as a Nigerian living in America as an American citizen. But first and foremost, we will have the announcement. For today's announcement, some of you know that our team was in Minneapolis last week for a rally on behalf of Free Nigerian Slaves. It's a coalition of different organizations, and they came together to bring attention to the issues going on in Nigeria. Watch this short video clip that summarizes our time in Minneapolis.
I am Stephen Anada, representing coalition of different organizations and individuals promoting free Nigerian slaves. And this is important. We are here in the city of Minneapolis. We are asking her to take leadership of this campaign to free Nigerian slaves. Join hands with us to free these girls. They are prisoners of conscience, and this must stop. These are their human rights obligations, and we call on every human being, every lawmaker, government agencies to come and promote this cause with us.
That was Stephen Anada, one of our directors for Icon here, and our team was in Minneapolis. Thank you to all of you who joined us there. We want you to continue to get involved, get your representatives involved. We want to spread this word about the situation going on in Nigeria. A simple way to jump in is this. We are using the hashtag speak up for Leah. Leah Sharibu was has been in captivity for 3 years, separated from her family and friends, and she is just one of hundreds of girls and children and women and men that have been captured by terrorist groups that have been operating in Nigeria. So share our posts, follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We're constantly sharing information about speaking up for the victims of these atrocities in Nigeria. So we want to invite you to be part of this fight. Yes, we went to Minneapolis and that happened, but that's just one little tiny aspect of what we're doing. We can make a difference. You can make a difference. Your voice is important. Before we go on, here is the news of the week. I just want to be transparent before I continue that the news of the week for me is the hardest part of this podcast, because I personally feel like, we're doing this, we're fighting for this, for justice, we're fighting for the voices of people to be heard, and it's like this terrible things keep happening, and I keep feeling like our voices are being snuffed out. But I want to encourage you, as you listen to this news, don't listen to it as from a defeatist point of view. Listen to it as fuel for our fight. This is the reason why we cannot be silenced. This is the reason why we continue to fight. Our first news for the day states that suspected Fulani gunmen kill 8 miners in Plateau State. This is personal to all of us in this that you're going to hear from today, because a lot of us lived in Plateau State. Gunmen have killed 8 miners in the mining site of Kabitex Company in Karu, just south local government area of Plateau State. The victims comprise of 5 women and 3 men. They were attacked by suspected herdsmen on Saturday night, with several others sustaining injuries. The Secretary General of Cairo Development Association, Chapo Daniel, who confirmed that the development, described it as a heavy loss to the community, considering that the victims went for their legitimate business and were ambushed by the assailants after the day's business activities. You can follow us on Facebook, sign up for our newsletters to read the entire news caption. This breaks my heart because I have family in Jos. The guest I'm bringing has family in Jos. AJ behind the scenes has family around that area. We are not talking about just far away developments. This is close to our hearts. The next news I'm going to highlight says 4 killed and houses were destroyed by the militias in southern Kaduna. Suspected Fulani militias have allegedly killed 4 males in the early hours of Monday in Wawarafi village at Atiap Chiefdom in Zangon Katav local government area of Kaduna State. This source told the Daily Post that 6 houses, including foodstuffs and other valuables, have been destroyed by the suspected Fulani militants. And according to the source, the Fulani militants invaded the village in their large numbers and started shooting and killing. They killed the 4 people and destroyed houses and other valuables, but they said they stood their ground, or else the killings would have been much, much worse. So they're grateful that they're counting their losses, and they're praying for those for the families of those who perished. In another breaking news, we read that no fewer than 5,000 people, mainly women and children, have been displaced following this weekend's attack by Boko Haram in the Hong local government area of Adamawa State. No fewer than 5,000. I think I said 100 the first time. No fewer than 5,000 persons have been displaced. Dr. Mohammed Suleiman, the executive secretary of the Adamawa State Emergency Management Agency, announced this in Yola on Sunday. This is another huge loss, lots of people displaced again. There's what they call IDPs in Nigeria right now, where it's just like, we've talked about it. We've talked to people who are working with the IDPs, but a lot of people are leaving away from their homes, some of them sleeping under the stars because they have been displaced from their house from their homes due to terrorism and terrorist activities. Suleiman stated that the insurgents surrounded the village and killed 7 people, including 3 children, during the attack. 50 houses, worship centers, markets, and schools were burnt. Many people, including women and girls and men, were kidnapped by the attackers. More people kidnapped. Again, I want to say that we cannot take this as from a defeatist point of view. We're going to continue to fight. You're going to continue to hear our voices, and we're going to continue to raise our voices on behalf of these families that have been displaced, on behalf of these hundreds and thousands of people that are affected by the killings in Nigeria. This has got to stop. Our government has got to respond. And we have to do our place to put pressure on the US government, to put pressure on the Nigerian government to end these killings. Okay. I've gotten past the most difficult part of my podcast. It's a joy to bring this news to you all, but it's hard to just hear that this situation keeps going and going and going. But I'm gonna introduce our guest quickly so that we can get into his conversation, because he has some really, really great stuff to share with us. Our guest today is Leslie Dapwatda. He is also known in the music industry as No Less. I knew him first. He was my very first music producer. The very first music I ever put out in the world. It wasn't to the world. It was really bad. It couldn't have gone to the world. But the very first music I ever recorded, Leslie was my producer. So I knew him first as a music producer. He went on to become a captain in the U.S. Army, and went on from there to become a movie producer, director, and top #1 movie maker that I know. He is based in Atlanta, Georgia. He's an amazing friend. And one word I used to describe him, like I said, is he's a faithful friend. He's that person that when you need him, he's there. He's also very, very passionate about the issues going on in Nigeria. He's a very proud Angas man and very proud Nigerian. Join me. Before we welcome him to the studio, I want to just show a clip from his last movie that touches on some of the issues going on in Nigeria, that touches on some of the kidnapping. So enjoy.
Jama'a barkanku. Na zo muku da wata bukata ne. Sanin kanku ne duk wanda yake bi na a social media na ya san kan cewa ɗana ba shi da lafiya. Yana asibiti.
Cardiac myxoma da Jalil yake fama da shi yayi tsanani. Gaskiya yana buƙatar soji da gaggawa.
Ba ki gashi ba ne Tams, abin tausayi. Ko numfashi ma da ƙyar yake iya. I know.
Rashin lafiyar ɗana yana da buƙatar aiki a John Hopkins.
Ana buƙatar dala 90,000. Yes.
Maganan wajen miliyan 31 kenan.
Miliyan 31? Ina za mu samu irin wannan kuɗaɗen?
Ban yi tunanin ina da irin wannan kuɗin. Kuma ki kaddara ina.
So I think that was as much as we could get. You need to watch this. This is on Amazon Prime. He will talk a little bit more about this. Please join me to welcome to the studio my friend, my brother, Leslie Dapwatda.
Hi, everyone. It's nice to be here.
Sanu, welcome to the studio, Yade.
Hello, thank you.
It's so good to see you. So good to have you here. I don't know why we didn't have you here earlier. So I talked a little bit about your background, but can you tell us where you're from in Nigeria? Describe to us a little bit about the place and what you love about being an Angas man from Nigeria.
Wow. That is okay. So I am, and we the Angas people will say Ngas.
Ngas.
Yeah,
okay.
we don't like the Angas because It's so I'm an Amangas man from Plateau State, from Kanki local government. We have two local governments. One is Kanki, one is Pankshin.
Hmm.
It's a very, very beautiful place, a unique place. If you live in the United States, think Utah,
Hmm.
the Rockies, basically. Just think the Rockies. That's how the Gasland is. Every time I drive through that area, I'm like, man, this place reminds me of Machiji, you know, when you're going down from Panshin all the way down,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
going back up and all that. So it's a very beautiful place. And when I drive through there, it reminds me of home. One of the coldest place I think in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Which actually makes it interesting because it prepares you for America, you know. So, and the people are nice. The food is amazing. It's just mind blowing.
Wow.
The documentary that we did recently about Josh of Pang, we showed a little bit of the scenery. It's like it's a really beautiful place to be.
Wow.
We lived on the mountain. We have the plain gas people, and then we have the rocky gas people. So those that live on the mountain and those that live on the plains. And they farm on the rocks. You can see ridges on the rocks.
Wow.
It's a work of art.
Wow, that's beautiful. So, Leslie, you just described so fondly what it feels like, what your homeland feels like. In your own words, describe the situation in Nigeria. How will you describe the situation in Nigeria? But particularly, how has it affected that Angas land that you described? How has it affected the peace and the joy and the prosperity of that particular Angas land? So, talk about, first of all, how will you describe the situation and how has it affected the Angas people?
To be honest with you, I think the situation is not in Nigeria. Anyone can tell. Personally, I think it's the most pathetic, the most the saddest thing you can ever, imagine happening to anyone. I've been to combat, and I always tell, I say, look, if you go to Nigeria, Nigeria is like a combat zone now. Like when we were in Afghanistan or Iraq, when you drive around, you're driving around being careful, always watching for someone shooting at you. When you're walking down, even within the base, you're careful because there are gunshots, there are snipers shooting at you and all of that. And there's the danger of you getting kidnapped by the rebel, the terrorist group over there that we're fighting. Problem is the similar thing that is going on in Nigeria right now. It's exactly the same thing. So people who don't know should actually know that this is what is going on in Nigeria. Every person living in Nigeria is in a state where you could get kidnapped.
Yeah.
And your family would be running up and down trying to get money to pay for that. It's not even about being kidnapped. If you have the money to pay the ransom, it's different. But imagine a country where people earn less than $1 a day. You know, imagine that country, and then your family member gets kidnapped and they're asking you to pay maybe $1,000 or $2,000. I'm being very conservative now.
Yeah.
You're asking for that. How do you raise that kind of money in a place where there's no savings? We don't have 401ks. We don't have retirement. We don't have any of that. So how do you pay to get your family member out? That is the situation in Nigeria, you know. So that has affected not just the peace, but it has affected the economy. It has affected the commerce. It has affected basically everything that you want to do. Bringing people from here now, we say, okay, we're taking people from here to Nigeria. The first thing they ask you, is it safe?
Is it safe?
I'm serious.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a problem. We're laughing, but it's a serious. I'm telling you, one of our mutual friends, I think you know Zach Ochoga. 2 weeks ago, and he was asking me, he was like, I want to take somebody home to Nigeria. I'm in the conference, but my problem is that, is it safe? You know, so right now we're sitting out trying to prepare, you know, security protocol for him. How, you know, so I told him, I said, this is what I do. I just explained, I won't say it on air because it's my security thing. What I do when I'm in Nigeria to stay safe. That is how bad it is that I have to plan my life to stay safe in Nigeria in my own home. That is how bad it is that everyone has to be careful to stay safe in Nigeria. So that is the situation that is there. So it affects commerce because people who can go home and spend their money in Jaws that used to be home of peace and tourism, that mantra, home of peace and tourism. Now people don't want to go there because it's too scary. It's too unreal that you're walking down the street and somebody takes you and nobody can find you.
Yeah.
And so it's a sad situation.
It's heartbreaking, I think, because we know what it was like. We know what it was like when we were growing up in Jos. Like, there was such freedom between Christians and Muslims and everybody, and there were like people from every kind of country. We grew up, having Americans and British people and Indians and Chinese people, because everybody came to Jos, and now that's not happening. Do you have any personal experience with terrorist action against you in Nigeria? I know you've been going back to Nigeria, or even before you left Nigeria. I experienced the 2001 riots when like the world went bizarre, and when it brought up riots in Jos, and that was the first time I had experienced that kind of like religious fights or religious persecution. Can you describe to us some of those experiences?
Yeah, so mine was, I have a few of them. I've slept in the park with the police in the cold. I wasn't wearing a jacket, so literally I was out there freezing to death. But one of the ones that never left me, and I think recently I was actually talking to my doctor about that, is, so we were home. We lived, our neighbor, my dad's house, opposite my dad's house is a Muslim guy from Maiduguri. It's a Muslim family from Maiduguri. So we're neighbors, so we talk. And if you know the history of the Ngas people and the Kanuri people, we call them, the Maiduguri people, we call them Kaka, which is like, because we migrated, we migrated through that area down to Plateau.
Wow.
So we call them our grandparents.
Ancestors.
Yeah, ancestors. Thank you. That's the right word. Ancestors. That's what Kaka, stands for. So we play with them a lot, So I remember when that night, the first night that thing happened in Jos, we came out and there are boys trying to burn down their house, So we run over there and we're begging. So when they put the fire, we'll put out the fire. They put out the fire, we'll put out the fire. And then the other people, some other people came from the other side trying to burn a church, an NKST church, right next to the house, So we ran over there trying to put out the fire. All of a sudden, from nowhere, we heard gunshots, pa, 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 and it was something we did not know what happened. Nobody knew that they had guns. Started shooting at us, and the guy standing right next to me got shot right here in the chest. So we had to drag him out of that place, and run. We're literally dragging and running out of the place. So these are things that you see every day that happen. Like, I'm just telling my own part of the story. I know almost everyone, and that is for the crisis. Then when you start talking about the kidnap, I think almost everyone in Nigeria knows one person. Their family member was kidnapped. Somehow, somewhere, you're connected to someone who has been through this kind of ordeal. We were in Maiduguri. Went to Maiduguri. We did a documentary for Equal Access about the effects of the recovery of the Maiduguri people after the Boko Haram attack. I guess it was too early, but we were there. We met people. I met this lady who lost her limb, and for the first time we took her she wanted to show us where the thing happened. I didn't know that she had never been there after it happened for 2 years. So when we got there, you could see her literally shaking. She was shivering and everything. So I had to take her out of that place because the crowd was gathering. They were happy, but she was shivering because, of course, it was bring
PTSD,
So when you see things like that, these are the kind of situations that we see. So there are so many instances, like it's a lot. But you drive through a city and it's like you're driving through, Iraq. Back then they would say Mogadishu, but I'll tell you, it's like driving through Iraq or driving through Afghanistan. It's crazy. You're scared. We were entering Maiduguri. They stopped us. The police stopped us. They're like, man, it's too late. We can't let you go in. And the police, the military, they stopped us at, before we got the gate, before we entered past Beneshik. They said, stop, we can't let you in. So there was a line of vehicles, hundreds of vehicles. We had to sleep in that place, on the road, in our car, before we left the next day to go. That is how terrible it is in Nigeria. So people don't know. Americans think it's just when you start talking about it, but it's reality. It's like Iraq. That is the truth in those areas.
Okay. I appreciate your perspective, Leslie, because you've seen war. You've been on the forefront. You've been in Afghanistan. You've been in Iraq, and you're describing our country, our home, with the same lenses. I just want that to sink in for our viewers that may be watching this. And you've probably heard some of the people that may be in Lagos or Abuja that are like, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. And I wanted to sink in that the fact that they're not in the forefront of where it's happening, how would you suggest, particularly to Nigerians in the diaspora? I know you are very involved, you go home often. How would you suggest that Nigerians in the diaspora use our voice to make a difference in Nigeria? Because we can sit down here and say, well, we're here. Most of us still have family home, but we may not feel it as intensely. So what would be your suggestion about jumping in and getting involved and not just enjoying our stay here, being far away from the problem?
I think one of my biggest fight with Nigerians in diaspora is greed. And I've said this over and over again. It's really annoying how they try to, what's the word now? I'm trying not to use a bad word. They try to suck up to all these politicians back home in Nigeria. I think that's my most annoying part. And I don't want to sound angry, but it's when I see that, it really pisses me off, because you have the opportunity, you have the power, you have the voice, you have the place to tell these people to do the right thing. But most of them are more concerned about the contract they will get from the governor, the money they will get from this minister, and what they can get from this person. So because of that, we are unable to speak truth to power. We're unable to tell them what they are supposed to do. I told somebody, I said, look, I don't do business with government, so I don't care. I will tell them what is in my mind. I will tell them exactly how I feel. I've sat down with government officials to tell them, look, from my military perspective experience, this is what I have done. I can help you guys plan the security of Jos City. How do we coordinate this thing? How do we watch? How do we monitor these people coming in? They're human beings.
Yeah.
They're human beings. Are you telling me that we don't have equipment to be able to monitor this? But the problem is greed. When you start talking about things like that, somebody would want his family member to get that contract. I told them straight up, I don't want your money. I will connect you directly with the company that does that. All I need is I come down, I train them, you pay for my stay in Jos. That's all I want. But the problem with things like that is that they want money off of it, so they will tell you no. They want somebody else to do the job because they want to get something out of it. So I'm sure that a lot of other people that have done the same thing I'm trying to do, that is where the problem is. We want to jump in to help. We have experience. There are people who have worked. There are people who don't even have higher ranking than me in the army. There are people who haven't worked for the FBI or the CIA from Nigeria who have experience in dealing with this kind of things. The problem is greed.
So where do we go from here, in your opinion? Because we can't just say, okay, they won't let us, so what do we do? And I'm speaking also from the icon perspective, because we're doing this podcast. We've been doing it. We're trying to get the word out there, trying to get the U.S. Government to put pressure on the Nigerian government so somebody steps out and do. What can we do? Should we just say their money, there's a lot of greed, so it's not going to happen? Where do we go from here?
Yeah, so like what you guys are already doing, I think that's one of the important things. That's why I said I don't do business with government, so I can tell them whatever is in my mind, right? So one of the important things is to pressure them, use pressure groups like yours. We have Nigerian communities in diaspora, which is divided in some areas because some are greedy, some are doing the right thing. But we keep pressuring the American government or the American organizations or private citizens in America to put pressure on the Nigerian government to do the right thing. That is one of the important things. The second thing for me that I think we should do is actually get involved in training people. If we know, like, how do we synthesize people, let them know this is what is happening, this is what you can do, and stuff like that. And the most important thing is to put the right people in government. That is, I think for me, is one of them. We were just talking about that with AJ earlier. I think that's one of the most important things that we need to do. People in government. Put right people in government. People that would listen. People that are there to serve the people, not there to serve themselves. So that is one of the biggest things that I think we must be involved in.
Yeah. Leslie, I think we just scratched the surface. I have like 6 questions that I haven't even gotten to, and we are right on time. But I love that we went beyond just talking about the problem into what is the solution. Put the right people in power. Put pressure on the US government. Just for those of us who are watching, some of the viewers, you might be watching this for the first time and you're like, how can we put pressure on the government? We go to iconhelp.org. We have a form where you can find your representative and write them a letter. We prepare you to do that, and you can ask the question to your representative, what is happening with the Nigerian problem? If they hear from enough of us, we talked to a lady a few weeks ago, Leslie, and she was talking about how her husband was in prison, and she said enough people wrote the government representative, they put pressure on the Iraqi government, and he was set free. And so it's about us standing up together as one voice. Can your church band together and make some noise? Can we as a people, Leslie, can you speak just briefly before we go about 2 things? One, where I know you've done some documentaries about the situations in Nigeria. Where can people find your work? How can people connect with you? There might be people in the diaspora that say, I want to talk to Leslie about this. How can people connect with you? And lastly, what final words will you give?
Yeah, so my social media platform, everything is just my name, my first name, last name, Leslie Dapwatda. So on YouTube, you'll find me. My channel is at Leslie Dapwatda. If you go to Instagram, is the same thing. Facebook is the same thing. So basically, Leslie Dapwatda. You'll find me everywhere. I have my work on Amazon. Jalil is a story of about a family who went through a kidnapping situation like we're talking about, and we also dealt with the issue, the theme of healthcare in Nigeria. And we have Joshua Pang is on YouTube. It's streaming for free on YouTube. Some of the work that I did were for private organizations like Equal Access International, who they operate in Nigeria. They had it on Africa, Ariwa 24, and I think they still show it once in a while on Ariwa 24 in Nigeria, and stuff like that. My final word for people is that honestly, don't ever stop doing what you're doing. Like pressure groups, if you pressure people, it works. We were in prison while we were doing a documentary in Maiduguri. They arrested us. It was pressure from the American embassy. The American embassy went there and they let us out the next day.
Wow.
So wow. Yeah, if you have the right people putting pressure, it gets the thing done. And that is what we need to. So the important thing is for us to band together, work together to make sure that they know we have one voice.
Yeah.
There's a situation that AJ was talking about earlier about, some people writing a letter to the government of Nigeria talking about stop the killing of this tribe. And somebody was saying, they don't care. You people live in America. You don't know what's happening in Nigeria. Stuff like that. I said the point is that he's just seen a little bit. If the whole Nigerians in diaspora in America, England, or everywhere in the world come together and say, look, you need to do this. If we have one voice, it'll change the situation in Nigeria.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for being here, Leslie. I know that this is just the beginning of our working with you as ICON, and I'm excited to see what our collaboration, what our banding together will bring to pass. Thank you for this wonderful time.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Yay. And to our audience, thank you again for joining us. Oh, I don't know what else to tell you. I think Leslie said everything. We have a voice, use it. You have an influence, use it. If you're not sure, band together with those who are making a difference and work with them. What are we saying? We are saying go to iconhelp.org/engage. It tells you how you can get involved. Right there, AJ is scrolling on our website, how you can get involved. There's specific things you can do today. As simple as sharing this post is the one way, because I wish I could get millions of people to just hear what Leslie just said. But you can do that. You can share this post. You can make this word go out further than we ever can. Follow us on Instagram, on Facebook at IconHelp1. We will continue to bring you as much information as we can, but there's so much that we can do. Without you, we're nothing. And that's why we call this season, we talk about speak up. Speak up. It's time to make your voice heard. Speak up. This is intense. It's beyond anything that we have seen ever before happening in Nigeria. Something has to happen now. We would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching, whether you're watching live or watching on rebroadcast or watching this later. We are grateful for you. We appreciate your time, and we hope to see you the same time next week. Hear their voices. Again, my name is Priscilla Onyedikachi Ozodo Acevedo. I've been your host, and it's a joy. Have a blessed rest of your week.